Hey, welcome back to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. Got an awesome guest today, my boy, David Marmon. We were on the offensive line together. We were in the same trailer park, had the same major in school. He had a lot of confidence over the years. So right now what he's doing, he's a strength conditioning specialist for the 21st Special Tactics Squadron for the Air Force in Raleigh, North Carolina. And before that, he had his own fitness business, Marmon Muscle. Joe Martin Fitness over here, Marmon Muscle over there. Very creative name. So Marvin Muscle, he trained youth, high school, college, professional, tactical, special needs, and recreational athletes. He also a strength conditioning coach for the 757 Swim Club during that time. Also served on their board of directors. Before that, he was a college strength coach, University of Washington, Indiana State, Iowa, William and Mary, maybe a little school you've heard of, University of Miami in Florida. He's got a master's degree in kinesiology from Georgia Southern, where he served as a graduate assistant strength conditioning coach. He's got a bachelor's degree from the Auburn University in health promotion. He's married to former Iowa Hawkeye standout Britta Vogel, was back in the day what she was called. They have two kids, Maddox and Bo. You'll hear more about them later. But David, I just read a bunch of your stuff. Thanks for coming on, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is a blast.
It felt so weird calling you David.
You can call me Marmon.
Where my comfort zone lives. So yeah, appreciate you coming on, man. Let's talk a little bit. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up with you in Huntsville, Alabama. Let's see, what was my path? Chaffee Elementary, Whitesburg Middle School, Grissom High School. And then we went to Auburn together. And then I went to grad school, Georgia Southern. But yeah, enjoyed growing up in Huntsville, had a pretty stellar childhood, got involved in sports at a young age. I was a little fat kid and mom threw me into the sports that required no skill. They were just pretty much violent based sports like football and wrestling. And that's what I did, all through my youth and through high school. So.
Well, yeah, so like I said, we lived in the same trailer park. Unspeakable things happened in the trailer park. That's a whole other podcast. But let's kind of fast forward to there. So you're at William and Mary. And so what happened? How did you get to William and Mary? So a lot of people have heard of that, but you don't know exactly where it is. So how'd you wind up there?
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it before I got hired there. I just finished my my master's degree at Georgia Southern, and I was applying for full-time jobs. And I think I got two job offers. One was at San Jose State University, which, in case you don't know, it's like the most expensive place on the planet. And I think the salary they offered me was like $15,000 a year. So basically, I would have been living below the poverty line. And my other option was to go to the College of William and Mary. And so a little research, learn more about the school, the academic prowess of the university, and sort of the traditions of some of their athletic programs. So I ended up going to the College of William and Mary, and that was my first full-time coaching position in college athletics, and had a ton of responsibility. Probably worked 60, 70 hours a week there, and just engulfed myself in my job. I wasn't in any relationship at the time, and just wanted to learn and, develop my craft as much as I can, really apply the things I'd learned in school with real life athletes. So it was a great experience.
Cool. So you weren't in a relationship. So how do you meet the Britta, if you haven't heard of her?
Great question. I was the creepy strength coach that asked this former athlete out on a date. So I left the College of William and Mary to take a job at the University of Iowa, and Britta was a senior soccer player when I arrived, and then she graduated, and we just stayed in touch. She would still come by the gym and work out from time to time, asked me to put together programs for her, and there's definitely something there, some chemistry. And one night I just got the nerve to call her up, and she was like, "David who?" And I was like, Coach Marmon? She's like, "Oh, hey." And so I asked her if she wanted to go on a date, and her excuse was that she had to study. So I instantly thought I'd creeped her out, and I was like, that was a huge mistake. And then a couple of days later, I got the text, "Hey, where'd you go?" And then there's a follow-up email, and then the rest is history. We went on our first date, December 16th, 2004. I think that's the right date. And after the date, I called my mom and I said, "Mom, this is the woman I'm going to marry."
Look at
And
that.
fortunately, I bothered her enough until she said yes.
Just wear them now. It's key to
That-
life.
That's right. Persistence.
Yeah, persistence. That's it. So how do you get back to William there at that area?
So she got into coaching as well. She was a women's soccer coach. She was a graduate assistant at Indiana State. And at the time, I was the head strength conditioning coach at Indiana State. And Indiana State was not a place where we wanted to stay long term. We spent, I think, 3 years there, but we were looking to get out. And I interviewed for a couple coaching jobs. It just didn't pan out. And then all of a sudden, they contacted me and said, "Hey, they're hiring an assistant women's soccer coach. Would Britta be interested?" So Britta sent a resume. She went and crushed the interview, and we got hired up, and we moved back to Williamsburg, which was great because we had a ton of friends there and a good support system. So socially, it was an awesome move, and it was a great career move for her at the time.
If you're not familiar with that area, it's a really cool area. So I never heard of it until you moved over there. I really love that area. So that's cool. So eventually you start your own business. How's that decision happen?
Yeah, I think I just grew a little frustrated at the pace at which I was advancing in college athletics. I mean, I'm a very driven and impatient human being, and I was ready to move up the food chain faster than it was happening for me. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to give this thing a shot and be my own boss, and hired a business coach who helped me put together a business plan. And I started off in an 800 square foot space, and I think I was 32 years old at the time. And when you're 32, you know everything, right? So I had it all figured out. um, and in all seriousness, no, it was great. I was very passionate about what I did, and it was great to make an impact on our community. But we grew that business from an 800 square foot space in a corner to a 10,000 square foot space, several hundred members. And we even tried opening up a second location. So we had two locations at one point. But, being an entrepreneur was great. Being my own boss was a very enjoyable experience. But, just as Joe, it comes with a good deal of stress too. And sometimes bigger is not always better. And with growth comes more bills and stressors. And so after about 9 or 10 years of that, I was ready to move on to something else.
More money, more problems.
No problems. That's right.
So let's fast forward to the start of the show. So eventually, little Maddox comes along. So tell me about leading up to the birth and everything that happened.
Yeah. So we went on a beach week trip. I don't know if you were at that beach week trip in the Outer Banks. I know you went to one of them, but I'm pretty sure on that little romantic getaway is where beautiful young Maddox was conceived. But 9 months later, Britta gave birth to a beautiful little girl. Unfortunately, right as she was born, they sort of whisked her away, and they weren't really clear as what the problems were. But they came back in and informed us that she had multiple holes in her heart, a collapsed lung, and they had suspicion that she had trisomy 21, otherwise known as Down syndrome. And that was a really emotional experience for us, just finding out that news. I mean, I think everybody has this expectation of what the day your child is born is going to be like. And typically you don't run that scenario through your head. At least we didn't. So there was definitely a few moments there where, we were both alone and just had to really cry for a few minutes because we didn't know what that meant. We didn't know what expected. We knew very little about Down syndrome at the time. I was very, very scared that she was not going to live because I literally got to see her for 30 seconds, and then they put her in an ambulance and took her to the NICU at CHKD Hospital in Norfolk. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared to look at her because I was like, if she doesn't make it, I'm never going to be able to erase that image from my mind. But, Mama Bear was confident the whole time. She said she was never worried about Maddox not making it. But when we got to CHKD, they're miracle workers. I mean, she bounced back in a matter of days. The hole in her heart actually healed on its own, so she didn't require any sort of cardiac surgery. Her follow-up appointments ever since then have been great, and she's had no, um, you know, residual effects from that. But while we were there, the doctors weren't saying anything about the trisomy 21. So we eventually brought it up. We said, hey, the delivering physician had mentioned that he thought Maddox might have Down syndrome. What do you guys think? And instantly all these doctors were like, no way. No, we don't think she has it. We don't think she has it. So there's this like glimmer of hope. We're like, oh, well, maybe our daughter doesn't have, this genetic disorder. But we still asked them to run the tests. And in the back of our minds, we both knew that she had it. I mean, like, as soon as you find out, you're Googling every sort of characteristic of trisomy 21, trying to like look at your kid and see if they have it, whatnot. And the genetic test came back that she did have trisomy 21. And at that point, we had already accepted it, but we were both just dumbfounded at the doctor's inability to communicate. Like, that's great to think that she doesn't have it, but you probably shouldn't articulate that to parents until you actually have the test results. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but from my experience, doctors don't always have the best bedside manner when it comes to communication. But you know what? We started our journey. The second we left the hospital to bring her home, we were there for 10 days, and then we took her home. And a couple of days after that, we had an organization called Child Development Resources, and located in Williamsburg, had an occupational therapist, a speech pathologist, physical therapist, all in our home, working with Maddox, setting goals for with Britta and I about what our expectations and goals were for Maddox. And they worked with her until she was 2.5 years old and transitioned her up to the point to which she started preschool. I mean, they even had a program set up where they have a school bus in the parking lot, and they teach the kids to get on the school bus, and they drive them around the parking lot and then have them get off the school bus, just so that first day of school, they're not, confused about what to do with the school bus. But regardless, long story short, it was a great experience working with CDR, and they really made our role as parents much easier because they educated us and just provided us with resources that typically we never would have had if we lived anywhere else.
You're looking at those. I know you and Britt are very goal-driven, goal-oriented people. So with these goals, were you like super type A driven with these goals for Maddox as well?
Our number one goal is that we wanted her to be able to communicate, just because we feel like in the society we live in, like if you can't articulate ideas or process questions or have a conversation, like that's going to be really, really limiting. So we really wanted to put the majority of the effort into like her ability to speak and communicate and things like that. And we really, really lucked out because Maddox is I guess, I don't know what the right way to put it. She doesn't have a lot of the typical characteristics of kids her age with Down syndrome. She definitely has some cognitive delays, but like her speech is really good. She makes eye contact very well. She's got a few behavioral issues, but I think they're pretty typical for kids her age. So a lot of times people can't even tell that she has Down syndrome, unless obviously they've been around folks with Down syndrome, then they can spot it pretty quick.
Yeah. Mandy, see, let's think about this. So what is a lot of, so that's one thing. What do people misunderstand about people with Down syndrome?
That's been our biggest role as parents have been to be advocates for Maddox, whether that's communicating with teachers and administrators at schools. We've had to bring a lawyer with us to IEP meetings just to make sure that Maddox is getting the services that she's legally entitled to. Britta's gone to her classrooms ever since she started school and educated the kids in the class about what Down syndrome was and how Maddox was different and how she was the same. We've even had to educate our family because our family, will say things from time to time that are somewhat ignorant just because they don't know any better, and we've had to sort of educate them. But kids with Down syndrome are no different than regular kids. They're very, very different, and their capabilities and personalities and limitations are all over the board. But typically they have low muscle tone, so they're prone to more like musculoskeletal injuries or lifestyle things like obesity, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, things of that nature. obviously some cognitive delays with communication, reading, just understanding like processes and instructions. Um, they typically have almond-shaped eyes. They have a rather large space between their big toe and their second toe. The back of their head and neck tends to be a little flatter. So they, like Maddox had to have an x-ray of her cervical spine before she was cleared to participate in gymnastics. But like I said, we've been very, very blessed. I mean, like Maddox is incredibly muscular. She's incredibly athletic. She's more athletic than her little brother is, which drives him nuts. But and you know, it's amazing. We have a tutor that comes to the house now, a la COVID, and works with her. And the other day, I watched her knock out 50 sight word flashcards in a row, where just literally reading it off the card. And if she made a mistake, she would take time and sound out the word, and then she would get it right. But I mean, again, we're privileged. We have access to resources that a lot of people don't have. And you know, God bless us with an amazing little girl, and it's just been awesome to watch her grow up.
So do you find that kids accept them right away, even quicker than adults?
It that's funny you say that. Britt and I were talking about that in bed last night, how we know that her little brother knows there's something different about her, but he doesn't really it's not important to him. You know what I mean? Like, I think one time we tried to talk to him about Down syndrome, and like all he really does is like, remember Maddox has that thing you told me about, but he doesn't care. You know, she's just his sister, and he likes to play with her. Um, and I think kids in the classroom, for the most part, I think once they know why she's different, they are incredibly affectionate and supportive and like look after. But like when kids don't know, they can tend to be mean, you know. So I feel like that's why Britta felt it was important to go into the classroom and do a little education with the kids, because as soon as they found out, like, oh, you know, she has Down syndrome. Okay, well, what does that mean? Does it hurt? Is it ever going to go away? You know, they ask questions like that. But as soon as like Britta let them know, like, she's pretty much just like you guys. You know, these are the things that you can help her with. The kids are awesome, and they like, if Maddox is on top of the slide and the teacher blows the whistle and is like, all right, it's time to go inside, and she won't get off the slide, one of the other kids will go up there and get her to come down, get her lined up. So it's pretty awesome.
Great. We should be more like that. So
What's that?
we should be more like that as adults. We
Oh
suck.
yeah, for sure. You're right. I mean, dude, trust me, I think about all the time about how insensitive I was to kids that were different from me when I was in school and growing up. And man, I just want to take that version of me and just shake the hell out of him and slap him around, because you know, I had an opportunity then where I could have really, you know, impacted and been friends and advocates for some of those kids that we grew up with in school. And I didn't. I made fun of them. I made jokes. I tried to make people laugh by, you know, commenting on them, and you know, really kicked myself in the butt for that as an adult.
Yeah, because if anyone's ever met someone with Down syndrome, they're the happiest, most cheerful people, loving people ever.
Yeah, they'll never have the problems that we have, you know, the stresses and the worries and the things that we go through every day. They could care less, you know. They're just happy. They want hugs, they want kisses, they, you know, they want to play, they want to sing, they want to dance, they love music. I mean, it's just really enjoyable to watch Maddox. And I actually have an adult friend named Jason, who I trained for several years. And then I ended up hiring him as an assistant coach back when I owned Marmon Muscle. And Jason just turned 40 the other day. So I called and talked to him and wished him a happy 40th birthday. But, you know, I spent so much time with him, both from a coaching standpoint, but then also like trying to be a buddy. You know, I took him out and I let him drive my truck in the parking lot. He said he'd never driven a car. I was like, well, you're going to learn today. So I got to teach him how to drive and teach him how to exercise, and, you know, teach him how to like demonstrate things for a class full of athletes. And it's just a great friendship. And I miss not being close to him.
Yeah. So overall, what's your biggest challenge right now, just as a parent of a special needs kid?
What's my biggest challenge right now? Probably my child without special needs. I mean, my son is way more challenging than my daughter is, and Maddox is super sweet and easy. I think right now it's just making sure that she doesn't take on any of her little brother's behavioral habits, just because Bo's 5 and Maddox is 8, and he has a temper and he gets angry, and he has some personality traits that are not exactly something you want Maddox to be modeling. So I think that's probably my biggest challenge, is making sure that she stays sweet and loving and her brother doesn't rub off on her.
Both sounds like this guy went to college with.
Bro, it's so scary sometimes. I look at him, I'm like, oh. I mean, like, he literally went from like throwing a fit yesterday when we were with the rest of our family. He was throwing a fit 1 second. And then the second the family left and got in the car to go to the airport, he was bawling his eyes out. And I was like, oh man, I know where he gets this from.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different thing. What inspires you right now? Just in general, or as a parent, whatever you need. What's inspiring you these days?
I think I'm to the point in my life where I get really inspired by other people's passions. When I see anybody excited or ambitious or, geeked up about whatever they get going on in their life, that gets me inspired, and I want to try to either figure out a way where I can help them or encourage them or mentor them or just be their cheerleader. I mean, selfishly, like, my family is such a high priority in my life. Like, that, my family inspires me every day to try to be the best version of myself that I can be. I'm certainly more focused on being a great dad and a great husband than I am being a great strength coach, where that was definitely different 5-6 years ago. But I certainly am inspired by other people's passions and dreams, and I just want to use my life experiences and tools to help them be the best they can do and make their passions come true.
I love seeing people win. Don't you see people
Yeah,
win?
man. Gets me fired up. It really does. And it's to the point now where, like, I don't even need or want credit if I help somebody out. It always feels good when someone does say thank you, but like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's great to see people be successful. And I can't tell you how many young people that are in my Instagram feed or people that I used to coach that are just dominating now in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's career wise, whether it's Olympic weightlifting, whatever. It just makes my heart so happy to see them doing great things. And I'm just grateful I got to be a part of their journey.
That's a good feeling, man. So, what are you curious about?
What am I curious about? I'm curious about why they make children's toys so difficult to unpackage and assemble. Like, why do we need to break out the tool set to take out a doll? And why are these Lego instructions written in hieroglyphics with numbers instead of actually a detailed explanation? Those are some things I'm curious about.
Is that like, I don't have to have a screwdriver on Christmas? That's ain't
I
right.
know.
They got those sharp packages. Once you cut them open, you could cut your jugular and die on Christmas opening the little doll. I don't get it. Dolls at this rate, I don't get it. But all right, so
Yeah.
tell me about this. What's your favorite restaurant anywhere in the world? This is a non-COVID world.
Okay.
Anywhere you want to go in the world, and what do I need to go? What do I need to get? So let's start with your favorite restaurant.
All right. There's a Mexican restaurant in Williamsburg, Virginia called La Terraza. My kids call it Lalo's because the owner there, his name is Lalo. He's Big Lalo, and then his son or his nephew, whatever, his name is Lalo as well. So my kids call it Lalo's. You definitely got to get the jumbo skinny margarita, but just one, because if you get two, you're going to be a mess. And then for dinner, I recommend the fajitas La Terraza or the chicken mole. It's quite delicious as well. My wife will tell you to get she'll say get the tacos carnitas with cilantro and onion. That's what she likes. So.
I thought you were going to say the pocket waffle from Tiger Time.
Oh, gosh, man. No, don't go there. Don't go there.
So, all right. So if anyone's listening right now to do something to better the life of a special needs person, what could that be? What was something they could do? Just make their life a little bit better.
I would say just donate your time And like by time, I mean just like trying to develop a relationship with them, like learn more about them, learn more about like just challenge them to be um, the best version of themselves. You know, I'm thinking back to my relationship with Jason. I was a little nervous about taking him on as a client because I wasn't quite sure what he was capable of, and I realized really quick that he was more like everybody else than somebody with Down syndrome. Um, at times he was just lazy. It wasn't he physically or cognitively couldn't do what I was asking him to do. Sometimes he was just lazy and didn't want to work hard that day, you know? So, but I mean, in the beginning, I probably would have, this is a processing issue. He just can't do it. And I would have given up on him. But like, I was just persistent and I really challenged myself with like my delivery and my instruction and my exercise progressions. And then I realized like, man, this young guy can do a lot of cool stuff if you're patient and you put the time in. But that's the biggest thing. People don't want to give up their time. They don't want to invest time in something that doesn't provide them with a good return on investment. And what I can say is like if you get to know someone with special needs, the return on your time investment is just the relationship that you will create and develop. And it's amazing. It's lifelong, you know. I mean, I miss my hugs with my boy Jason and him telling me that he loves me and all that good stuff. And I'm so thankful that I have a daughter with special needs and that I get to enjoy that for the rest of my life. You know, I have a tattoo on my chest that says "The Lucky Few," and it's sort of a tagline or a campaign that parents of kids with Down syndrome came up with, and all these parents were getting out these tattoos, and so I decided to get a bigger version on my chest. But it's true, man. I'm blessed, and I am one of the lucky few that get to have a child with Down syndrome.
That's
And it's
awesome.
funny when you meet other parents and they realize you know you have a child with Down syndrome, they'll honestly say like congratulations.
Yeah.
Like it's like an honor. It's nothing to be sorry about.
Yeah. I remember Britta talking about how he would say, I'm so sorry to hear your daughter. And I was like, no, don't say you're sorry. This is how she was made. This is how we love her like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a weird thing. People they don't know what to say, so they just kind of
And people don't know what they don't know. And again, we didn't know. Like we were those people. We would have said that prior to having a child with special needs. So I really try not to judge. You know, I really just try to be patient and be an advocate. You know, like I work all day with people that use the R word, and I know they don't mean anything personal by it, but like every once in a while, I just be like, you know what, man, there's probably a better word that you could use other than the R word because it's degrading, it's disrespectful, and I all I can think of is like somebody making fun of my kid one day by saying that, you know, and I know that's not the context in which most people are using it, but I think we could all take the time and pause and come up with a different word other than the R word because we don't use it in our house. We don't say stupid in our house. Stupid's not a word that we say in our house. So we've had to get really creative to come up with our 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 words that we want to use to describe somebody that's not thinking too well that day. So, but again, it's important.
yeah. Oh man, I know it's been an inspiration watching you become the man you had to be a father to our days. It's been an inspiration for me because we were both knuckleheads. We've seen that side. It's been great seeing you really mature and grow up and become this person that can handle all of this. It embraces a challenge. I know you love a challenge, so you can handle
I do, and I remember you told me this years ago. You said, "God only gives you what you can handle,"
it.
and I try to really embrace the idea that like God gave Britt and I Maddox for a reason.
Yeah, you can handle it.
Yeah,
You can great. And so, but I'll tell you, it's been an inspiration, man. And you guys, it's been a blessing. And I know you're living it, so it's just great, man. So keep up the good work. We gotta end on a dad joke to me. We gotta go out on this one. So, I hate people that take drugs. Like airport security. That's it. That's a joke. All right, man.
oh,
Good one.
that's
So
good stuff.
what's going on, man? Keep up the good work. Because, like I said, you've educated me a lot on it. With my football players, that's something I preach now. Hey, we don't say the R word.
Yeah.
Your phrase is the best. Hey, you can think of another word. Even if the cuss word, let's think of a better.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done that and kind of passed that on. So you're making a difference there too. So man, thanks so much for coming on, and it's been awesome catching up.
Yeah, Joe. Have a good night, man. Enjoy your time with your family. All right.